Thursday dinner at the Corrin family's house in Charleston used to be a warm and happy time. It was a time when everyone laughed, told stories, and shared little moments from their days. But lately, it didn't feel like that anymore. Now, dinner felt more like a serious meeting or even a scary test. I didn't know what to expect, and I never felt comfortable. Every week, I sat in the same old creaky chair I had used since I was a teenager. The wood groaned when I moved, and I tried not to think about how long I had been sitting there in this same seat, listening to my family talk about my life as if they were checking my homework. My sister Ophelia began cutting into her lemon chicken carefully, her knife moving back and forth in a slow, precise rhythm. "I heard you said no to another job this week," she said, her voice smooth but sharp. I should have known this would come up. In the Corrin family, everyone's life was like a book that everyone could read. Privacy didn't exist. Nobody had secrets. Privacy was just a rumor, something people said but never really had. I took a deep sip of my iced tea, hoping the conversation would move away from me, but it didn't. "It wasn't the right fit," I said quietly. I tried to keep my voice calm, hoping they would accept that answer and leave me alone. "The right fit?" my brother Lucian repeated, his laugh sharp and cutting like broken glass. "Aveline, you've said no to 5 jobs in the last 3 months. When will you stop looking for the perfect job and just face reality? Maybe when the jobs are actually worth saying yes to," I said evenly, trying to keep my heart from racing. My chest felt hot, but I told myself to stay calm. My dad slammed his fork on the table, and the sound bounced off the walls. "Worth saying yes to? Aveline, you're 32. You rent a small apartment over a coffee shop. You drive an old car with a dent in the door. What are you waiting for? What exactly are you holding out for?" "Something that matches my values," I said quietly. Everyone at the table laughed, a cold, hollow sound that made my stomach twist. "Your values?" Ophelia said, raising an eyebrow. "The value of being unemployed?" "I'm not unemployed. I freelance," I said, trying to stay calm. "You write ads for dog treats?" Lucian said, cutting me off. "That's not a real job. That's something college kids do for fun." Mom, who had been quiet for most of the dinner, finally spoke. Her voice was calm, but it carried a weight I had never heard before. "Aveline, we've been patient. We've defended your choices to our friends, our neighbors, and our colleagues." "I never asked you to defend me," I said, trying not to shake. "No, you didn't. But we did it anyway," Dad said. "Because that's what family does. We protect each other, even when someone's choices make the rest of us look bad." His words felt like a heavy cloud hanging over me. I could almost feel it pressing down on my shoulders, suffocating me a little bit. "But our patience has limits," Mom continued. Her eyes were serious, and her voice sounded final, like there was no turning back. "We are tired of being embarrassed by you." A cold knot formed in my stomach. This wasn't like the usual criticism I had grown used to. This felt serious. Something had changed. "What are you saying?" I asked, even though a part of me already knew the answer. Ophelia and Lucian looked at each other like they had practiced this moment over and over. This wasn't an ordinary dinner conversation. It was planned. "We are saying we can't keep being with someone who refuses to live up to their potential," Ophelia said smoothly. "It's hurting our reputation, our work, and our social life." "Do you care about social standing?" I asked, my voice rising a little in disbelief. "Yes," Lucian said sharply. "Do you know how embarrassing it is to tell people my sister is a 32-year-old freelance copywriter? That doesn't help me get new clients, and I'm up for senior partner at my law firm." Ophelia added, "Having a sister who lives like a student doesn't look stable." I stared at the people I had shared birthdays, holidays, and quiet Sunday mornings with for decades. Now they looked at me like I was broken, like I didn't belong. "So what you want," I asked slowly, "is for me to take any job, even if I hate it, just so you feel less awkward at parties and charity events." "We want you to grow up," Dad said flatly. "To stop pretending that your principles matter more than your responsibilities." "What responsibilities?" I asked. "I pay my own rent and my own bills. I don't ask you for anything." "You owe us the courtesy of not embarrassing us," Mom said coldly. "At least try to look successful." "I am successful," I said, my voice rising, even though I didn't want it to. "I do work that matters. Work that helps the planet. Work that helps people. I care about things like sustainable living, ethical consumerism, and social justice." "Things that don't pay the bills," Ophelia said. The table went silent. The sound of everyone breathing seemed so loud I could hear it in my ears. "Stability isn't everything," Mom said slowly, almost like she was tasting the words in her mouth. Aveline, Dad said, his voice low and dangerous. Your mother and I spent our entire lives building stability for this family. We sacrificed. We were saved. We planned. And now you're telling us that it doesn't matter. That's not what I said, I replied, trying to hold my ground. It's exactly what you said, Ophelia interrupted sharply. You're dismissing everything we've built because you care about the wrong things, I said, and immediately regretted it. The wrong things, Dad roared, shoving his chair back so hard it toppled over. We value hard work, responsibility, helping society, and building something that lasts. What's wrong with that? You care more about what strangers think than what really matters, I said, standing up now, my voice louder than I had planned. And what really matters to you? Mom asked, her voice cold enough to make the air feel icy. Everything matters, I said, but even to my own ears it sounded weak. Lucian leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. When was the last time you came to one of my work events? When did you ever help Ophelia at her charity galas? When was the last time you did anything to lift this family up instead of dragging it down? I opened my mouth to answer, but I didn't know what to say. I hadn't been invited for years. We gave you every advantage, Mom said, her hands trembling slightly as she reached for her wine glass. Every connection, every recommendation, every chance to prove yourself as the daughter we raised. And you wasted every one, Ophelia added, her words sharp like knives. They weren't opportunities, I said, desperation in my voice. They were traps, ways to make me into someone I'm not. Someone who would hate her own life. Dad laughed, a short, bitter laugh that made my chest hurt. You think a stable job, a nice home, and respect would make you miserable? Do you know what actually makes people miserable, Aveline? Poverty. Instability. Watching your own family be ashamed of you. The words hit me harder than anything else had. You're ashamed of me, I said quietly. If you want to know what I said next, it shocked everyone. The table went completely silent. I didn't ask a question. I didn't explain myself. I just sat there, letting the silence speak for me. The silence carried all the years of disappointment, all the years of unmet expectations, all the moments I had been dismissed and overlooked. Finally, Mom spoke again. Her voice was calm, almost casual, like she was simply talking about the weather. You're officially dead to this family, she said. She picked up her fork and cut into her lemon chicken, as if she hadn't just broken me off from my own blood. The rest of dinner went on as if nothing had happened. Ophelia asked Lucian about his latest work trip. Dad commented on the wine. Mom complimented herself on the seasoning. They laughed, they planned, they acted like I wasn't there at all. Like I had already vanished. I stared down at my plate, my mind blank, until muscle memory made me reach for my phone. I didn't expect anything. Maybe a spam email or a coupon from the grocery store. Instead, a notification lit up my screen. Congratulations! Your article, The Hidden Environmental Cost of Fast Fashion, has been selected as a finalist for the National Environmental Journalism Award. The winner will be announced at tomorrow's ceremony. Please confirm your attendance. I read it 3 times, making sure my eyes weren't playing tricks on me. The National Environmental Journalism Award. It came with a $50,000 grant and guaranteed that my work would be featured in top magazines. 6 months ago, I had submitted that article, the one I had spent 3 months chasing across continents. I had spoken with cotton farmers, factory workers, corporate executives, and environmental scientists. I had worked so hard. This was work that mattered. Work my family had laughed at as just blogging. I slid my phone back into my purse without saying a word. Let them keep eating. Let them believe they had won, that they had pushed me away. Tomorrow, they would see exactly what, and who, they had dismissed. The rest of dinner blurred into meaningless chatter. No one said goodbye when I left. No one walked me to the door. Back in my tiny apartment above the coffee shop, I spent the night pulling out outfit options for a ceremony I had never dared to imagine attending. I tried on dresses, looked at myself in the mirror, and tried to imagine being confident among hundreds of people who were judging and watching me. The next morning, I slept into my best dress, a simple black sheath I had once worn to job interviews, and took an Uber to the Charleston Grand Hotel. My heart was pounding as I approached the grand ballroom. When I stepped inside, I froze. Hundreds of journalists, editors, and industry leaders filled the space. The air buzzed with energy, excitement, and ambition. I recognized faces from television segments. I saw names I had read in glossy magazines. I spotted reporters whose work had inspired me for years. And now, somehow, I was here among them. The ceremony began with tributes to the year's most impactful environmental reporting. I sat toward the back, palms damp, heart thumping, as each award was announced. The room was filled with claps, laughter, and smiles. The winners stood, shook hands, and gave short speeches. My nerves made me fidget in my seat, but I kept my eyes on the stage. Finally, they reached my category. The award for Best Environmental Investigation goes to... The presenter opened the envelope slowly, like in the movies. Everyone leaned forward in their seats. My heart started beating so fast, it felt like it might jump out of my chest. Aveline for her article, The Hidden Environmental Cost of Fast Fashion. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. My mind went completely blank. Then the sound of clapping brought me back. People clapped loudly, and the sound filled the room like thunder. I slowly started walking toward the stage. My legs felt wobbly, like they weren't really mine. Each step was heavy but exciting at the same time. The award was a shiny crystal shape. It was heavier than I expected. When the lights hit it, it scattered tiny rainbows across the stage. I reached out and held it in my hands. It was cold and smooth. I could feel its weight not just in my hands, but in my chest, like all my work and effort were suddenly real. "Mrs. Corin," the presenter said with a smile, "would you like to say a few words?" I looked out at the crowd. There were so many accomplished people there, all smiling and clapping for me. Something inside me shifted. I realized, maybe for the first time, that what I had done actually mattered. "Thank you," I began. My voice was steadier than I thought it would be. "This award is for 3 months of research, dozens of interviews, and many hours of writing. But more than that, it shows how journalism, writing news stories, can uncover truths that some people don't want anyone to know." The applause grew even louder. I kept talking, feeling braver with each word. When I started this investigation, people told me that fashion journalism isn't serious, that environmental reporting doesn't matter, and that I was wasting my time. But sometimes the work that matters most is the work people don't understand, until it changes something important. I could see people nodding. I could feel their respect. For once I felt proud, not just for the recognition, but for all the effort I had put in, for all the late nights and hard work. After the award ceremony, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Editors from 3 major magazines wanted to meet me. 2 documentary filmmakers wanted to interview me. And a book agent even wanted to talk about a book deal. I had never imagined all of this happening so quickly. My world suddenly felt bigger and brighter. At my apartment, I put the award on the counter. I sat down, exhausted but happy. Then I looked at my phone. Messages from colleagues were piling up fast, and then I noticed the messages from my family. Ophelia at 7:30 p.m. Saw the news. Impressive. Lucian at 8:15 p.m. Mom said you won. Cool stuff. Mom at 9:45 p.m. We need to talk. Call me. Dad at 10:20 p.m. Saw your name in the paper. Let's discuss. I didn't answer any of them. I just sat there, looking at my shiny award. I felt proud and sad at the same time. Proud because I had done something amazing, and sad because my family had never really seen or valued what I was doing until everyone else did. The next morning, there was a knock at the door. I opened it slowly and saw my whole family standing there. They looked awkward and nervous, like they weren't sure how to act. "Aveline," Mom began carefully, "we think there may have been a misunderstanding yesterday." "A misunderstanding?" I repeated flatly. "We didn't know you were working on such important projects," Ophelia said quickly, trying to sound casual. "If we had known what?" I asked. "Treated me differently? Respect my choices? Or stopped acting like I didn't exist?" Dad cleared his throat. "Maybe we were hasty in our judgment." "Hasty?" I repeated, my voice rising a little. "That's one way to put it." Lucian shifted uncomfortably. "This award, it's a big deal, isn't it?" "It's the most important award in environmental journalism," I said matter-of-factly. "And the prize money?" Mom asked carefully. $50,000, I confirmed. "Plus guaranteed publication in big magazines." They went silent. I could see their minds working. They were trying to process everything at once, the award, the money, and the fact that I had done something so important without them noticing. "Aveline," Dad said finally, "we owe you an apology." "Do you?" I asked. "Yesterday, you told me my work didn't matter, that my values were wrong, that I was an embarrassment." "We didn't understand," Ophelia began softly. "You didn't try to understand," I said firmly. "For years, you ignored what I do, what my goals are, what I want to achieve. You only remember the one article about dog food." I said to Lucian. One article about sustainable pet food out of hundreds, and that's the only one you remember because it fits the story you made up about me. Mom stepped forward. We want to make this right. How? I asked. How do you fix years of treating me like a failure? Years of choosing your reputation over my happiness? Ophelia tried to help. We could celebrate. Have a family dinner to honor your achievement. I almost laughed. A party now? Now that everyone else thinks my work is important. Aveline, please, Dad said, his voice soft but desperate. We made a mistake. We judged you unfairly. We want to fix this. I looked at them. The people who had made me feel small for so long. Here's what's going to happen, I said. I will keep doing the work I believe in. If you can respect that, even if you don't understand it, then we can rebuild. If not, this conversation ends here. Of course, we want to support you, Mom said quickly. But if you ever make us feel like our feelings don't matter, then we're done permanently. They nodded. They promised to listen more and to respect my choices. But I could see in their eyes that they were already thinking about how they could use my success for their own advantage. In the weeks that followed, they tried to weave themselves into my recognition. Ophelia mentioned my award to her law firm partners. Lucian brought it up with his investment clients. Mom and Dad bragged to their neighbors. But they still didn't read my articles. They didn't ask me about my next project. They only cared about the prestige, not the work itself. 3 months later, when the media attention died down and I returned to my normal freelance routine, their excitement faded. Ophelia stopped mentioning me at work. Lucian went back to his old jokes about my blogging career at family dinners. Mom and Dad started suggesting I should find a more stable career. They added, "Of course, we're proud of your award," but the words felt empty. It hit me then, nothing had truly changed. They hadn't learned to value me. They only learned that my recognition could sometimes make them look good. So I made a decision. Using the connections I had gained from the award, I got a staff position at Verdant Weekly, a top environmental magazine. The job came with a strong salary, benefits, and the chance to work on investigations that could really make a difference. The best part? The magazine was based in Portland, Oregon, over 3,000 miles away from Charleston, and far from the suffocating Thursday dinners where my worth was always measured by other people's approval. I didn't tell my family until after I had moved. You moved across the country without telling us? Mom's voice was sharp and full of hurt. I'm 32, I reminded her. I don't need permission. But what about family dinner? Ophelia asked quietly. We can still stay connected, I said. But on my terms. I'm done defending my life to people who only support me when it benefits them. The conversations that followed were messy, full of old resentments, sharp words, and moments when I nearly hung up. But the distance gave us something that years of Thursday dinners never had, perspective. Without constant judgment hanging over us, we began to talk about things beyond my career and their disapproval. Ophelia called me after reading my article on corporate environmental responsibility. I had no idea companies were doing this. Your work is important. Lucian texted me after my investigation into sustainable investing. My clients are asking about this. Can we talk? Even Mom and Dad started reading my articles. Not to brag, not to show off, but because they were curious. 2 years later, when I won a Pulitzer for exposing corruption inside the EPA, their reaction was different. They didn't rush to leverage it for social standing. They simply called to say, "We're proud of you. Your work matters." And for the first time, I believed them. The tiny apartment they had mocked was now a bright, sunny condo in the Pearl District. The old dented Civic was replaced by a hybrid car I loved. My once dismissed career had become stable, meaningful, and full of opportunities. Sometimes, you have to be pushed away from the table to finally find your real seat in life. Here's my advice. Never let someone else's small or limited vision define your worth. Set boundaries. Chase the work that excites you, even if others don't understand it. Sometimes, distance is the bridge that brings real connection. And sometimes, rejection is the gift that frees you to become who you're truly meant to be. Even when it feels lonely or unfair, trust yourself and your choices. The people who matter will eventually see your value. The people who don't, let them go. Keep walking your path, keep doing your work, and keep shining your light. One day, the world, and even your family, will finally notice, not because they have to, but because they truly understand. And that is the story of how I learned that recognition is wonderful, but the most important thing is believing in yourself and never letting anyone else decide your worth.